There we go.
Great. So our speaker today is Petrea Burchard. I'm going to read an introduction, her bio, and look forward to the presentation. Petrea Burchard has narrated more than 40 audiobooks, garnering consistent 5-star reviews. She has narrated for independent authors, as well as for publishers like Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Dreamscape Media, McGraw-Hill, W.W. Norton and Company, and more. She is a member of SAG-AFTRA, the Audio Publishers Association, and the Professional Audiobook Narrators Association, where she is active on the Author Outreach Subcommittee. Petrea studied Dark Ages British archaeology and Arthurian lore to write her novel, Camelot and Vine, a time adventure set in King Arthur's war camp. Camelot and Vine is currently being adapted as a screenplay. Her book of essays, Act As If, Stumbling Through Hollywood with Headshot in Hand, is a comic look at the life of a journeyman actor in Hollywood. Petrea's published works also include short stories, essays, and creative nonfiction, singularly and in anthologies. Petrea began her acting career at Chicago's famous Second City, performed at Victory Gardens and Steppenwolf theaters, and studied at the British American Drama Academy, among others. In Los Angeles, she has appeared on such TV shows as Dexter, ER, How I Met Your Mother, Joan of Arcadia, and The West Wing. Anime fans know her as the voice of Ryoko, the badass space pirate in the classic anime series Tenchi Mayo. And if you lived in the Los Angeles area between 2001 and 2017, you knew her as the radio and TV voice of Stater Brothers Markets. Oh. The floor is yours, Petrea. Take it away.
Thank you, Natalie. I'm really excited, you guys, because I've talked to this group before when I first started doing audiobooks, and I didn't try to be an authority. I brought a friend with me who knew a lot more than I did. Since then, I've learned a lot that I'd really like to share with you. So I'm pretty excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen, and we have a little slide presentation. Jean is recording, but I also encourage you to go ahead and screenshot the slides. There's sort of a list of the process, and they give you an idea of how it works. And also at the end, I'm going to share a PDF with you with all the links. So you don't need to worry about writing down all the links. All the sites that I refer to, I'm going to share all that with you. I ask that you mute yourselves and put your questions in the chat, and then we'll get to all the questions at the end. Okay? All right. So sharing my screen. Let's see. Oops. All right. I'm really good at this, you can tell. Let me start by opening that document first. There we go. Okay, now sharing my screen. Okay. Can everybody see it? See the slide? Intro to audiobook production. Just wave. Okay. My goal today is to set you on the road to your own audiobook, regardless of your budget. I know that budget is always a concern when it comes to audiobooks. So we will talk about that. We're going to talk about ACX. We're going to talk about the process of narration as well as the process of contracts. The first thing you want to consider is whether or not your book should be an audiobook at all. First thing, do you own the audio rights? If you are conventionally published, it's possible that you do not own the audio rights to your book. It's even probable. So make sure you own the audio rights before you start the adventure of producing your own audiobook. And just so you know, even if you don't own the audio rights, a lot of publishers are really amenable to hearing from the author about what they want in a narrator, maybe even specific name suggestions. So much of this information can still be useful to you, even if you don't own your rights. So what is your goal? Do you want to just hear your story in audio? Do you want something to share with family and friends? Do you want to make money? First two, make an audiobook. Get a friend with a nice voice to record it, or record it yourself. But if you want to make money, you have to have a professionally recorded audiobook. Audiobook listeners are very savvy, and they've been listening for a long time, and they can tell the difference between a professional recording and an amateur one. Not just the performance, but the actual recording quality itself. They're listening in their headphones, and they can hear every little glitch and mouth noise and all that stuff. And they will call you out if the recording is not professional. If you do want to make money, consider whether or not your book makes money in print. If it makes money in print, chances are very good that it's going to make money in audio. And that will be something to consider as you're hiring a narrator. Okay, so after each slide, I'm going to just check and make sure I don't miss any of my notes. We can go to the next slide. Okay. So I highly recommend that you hire a professional narrator. And here is why. First of all, a professional knows the process, so you don't have to. When you hire a professional narrator on one of the sites like ACX, again, which we'll get to, that person is going to produce your book from soup to nuts, basically production, post-production, and even distribution. You don't have to know all that stuff if you hire a pro. A professional has the technical know-how to produce your book to industry standards. A professional knows how to communicate with you, so you know what's happening. You're not in the dark. A professional meets deadlines, and a professional knows most of the answers. For the answers they don't know, they do know who to ask. Professional narrator is somebody who is more than just a voice talent, more than just an actor, but a person who actually knows how to produce an audiobook. Finding the right narrator is easier said than done. I might need to move this screen a little bit. 1 second. So I can see all my text. There we go. Okay. Here's a couple of things I suggest for you. If you haven't been listening to audiobooks, start listening. Listen to audiobooks, listen to samples on Audible, listen to audiobooks in your genre. Find historical novels that you're interested in reading and go listen instead. When you go to audible.com, you can listen to samples of the book, and you can decide if you like that narrator's voice and if you can stand to listen to him for 8 hours or whatever, because honestly, it's very personal. I know of at least 2 narrators who are top industry pros, award-winning narrators. They get to do all the really great books, and their voices just bug me. I can't stand to listen to them. And yet I know beginning narrators who've only been doing it for a few months or a year, who I love hearing. And I don't know why that is, because obviously those top pros have fans and people buying their books. So I think it's very personal what kind of voice you like to listen to, what really speaks to you personally. So go listen to audiobooks and listen to samples of different narrators on Audible. Then you're also going to want to, excuse me just a minute. Say you pick a narrator that you like, a narrator named Bob. find out about Bob's background. See if Bob has a website. See how many books he's got listed on Audible. Listen to his samples. And when you do that, I recommend listening to newest arrivals, because honestly, I think I've just completed my 42nd audiobook. I would much rather have you listening to book number 42 than book number 1, because I've learned a lot in the process. And I think most narrators, in fact, my friend Jeff, who I brought to a meeting 3 or 4 years ago, who spoke to the Historical Novel Society, told me once that he wishes he could take about the first 10 of his books just off of Audible. But once they're there, and you can go listen to the crappy ones, but listen to the newest arrivals, because that's your narrator's best work. Also, ask other authors who have hired this narrator what their experience was like, because the audiobook business is booming right now, but it's still small and kind of insular, and people talk, people share information. If you are difficult to work with, your name is going to get around, even as an author, but as narrators as well. So ask other authors what their experience was working with this person. And also check your potential narrator's professional affiliations. SAG-AFTRA membership is great because you know they're a professional. It's not essential to audiobooks, although we do have audiobook representation in SAG-AFTRA. It's not a requirement. You can be a great narrator without being a member of SAG-AFTRA. Actually, you can be a great narrator without being a member of anything, let me just say that. But SAG-AFTRA is an indication that you are hiring a professional actor. Audio Publishers Association is also good, but not conclusive. It just signifies that your narrator is interested in the business side of the profession and in networking with producers and publishers. The Professional Audiobook Narrators Association is a little different. It's a newer organization, only about a year old. And I think in the first year, we already have 500 members. One of the things I like about PANA for you as a sort of a hurdle you want your narrator to jump is that to join the Professional Audiobook Narrators Association, you take a pledge to be a professional, be honest, stick to your contract, all kinds of things. You take a pledge to be a good and seasoned pro. So those are things I recommend you check for when you're looking for a narrator. Let's see. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Other options for narration besides a professional narrator, one of them is you. You might be the best narrator for your audiobook. You're certainly going to be the cheapest, and that's not a bad thing, because I know this is an expensive process. But I do recommend that if you're going to narrate the book yourself, you hire an audiobook production company that will allow you to come and use their studio, because the space you record in is very important. I invested thousands of dollars in a sound booth, and many narrators will actually record in their bedroom closet, which is fine, but you still have to invest in fitting it out so that it is not soundproof, but sound baffled, so that the sound travels in the right circles inside the booth. Let's see. These production companies that I've listed here, I chose mostly because I have worked with them, so I know I can at least tell you that they are good production companies. There are hundreds of production companies that can take you from beginning to end of the process. Dion Audio, I put at the top of the list because they're local to LA. They're in Tarzana. They have been around for a long time. They're one of the pioneers in the business and one of the largest companies. They win awards. And also their studio price is reasonable. Punch Audio I have not used, but they are in Burbank, and I thought it would be good to mention them because they're local and they also specialize in audiobooks. TiDef Productions is in Atlanta, and I've worked with TiDef. They do a variety of books, and they focus on the African-American stories. John Marshall Media is an award-winning production company in New York City, very efficient. They really know the business. Now, these two in Massachusetts, Spoken Realms and Elephant Audio, are small organizations. These are basically one-person companies. Spoken Realms specializes in public domain and what's the word I want? Literary fiction. Elephant Audio does a more of a variety. What they do often is work for the big five publishers. And so sometimes the big five will say they don't have their own studios in their offices, right? So to do the production, they farm it out to Dion or Elephant or John Marshall or TiDef or one of these companies. These guys work for publishers as well as for narrators and authors. There are a lot more, but this is a good place to start. Make sure that whoever you hire can handle the distribution for you. A caution about narrating your own audiobook. I am in another writers group as well. And when I was first starting this and, sort of angsting about the money that I was investing and was it going to pay off? And also I didn't, I have a 40-year acting career history and 30 years in voiceover, but audiobooks is a whole new monkey and I had to take classes. And so I was investing in studying and instruction. And I was at my writers group meeting and one of my friends said, "Why are you going to all this trouble?" My friend sat in her closet and recorded her book into her iPhone, and it's an audiobook. She put it on Audible. And I said, "Oh, wow. Okay. So please tell me the title of the book. Let me go look it up." And I went to Audible and looked it up, and it sounded like somebody sitting in her closet talking to an iPhone. It did not sound professionally produced. And unfortunately for this author who put a lot of work into it, and it was a good book and her narration wasn't bad. Honestly, her narration was fine, but didn't sell because those listeners are so savvy and they hear that sample. That sound when somebody sounds like they're talking in a tin can or a trash can, you can just hear the echo and or you hear their mouth clicks. Or you hear a bump in the background. It just wasn't professionally produced, and the listeners know that. Okay. Oh, yes. Artificial intelligence is another possibility. And I will be honest with you, narrators are scared of artificial intelligence because it's getting really good. AI voices are almost indistinguishable from human voices. Unfortunately, for the budget-minded author, they're not that much cheaper than regular human voices. And if you're writing fiction, they're just not better. They don't get jokes. They don't do music. They don't do character voices. They don't understand nuance or subtext. So humans are still better. And if you ask me, which apparently I guess you sort of did, I think that a robot narrating stories about human beings makes about as much sense as a robot writing stories about human beings. So I highly recommend you get a human with a heart who loves your story as much as you do and puts as much heart into it as you did. Another thing that a human narrator can do that an AI narrator can't do is fix typos or notice grammatical error that you might not have caught or your editor might not have caught. I have fixed countless typos. We all have, all narrators have. All books have typos in them. I have been reading a nice mystery that I really enjoyed, and it's perfect. And then I got to almost the very end and there's a typo. But I know what the author meant, so I can make that correction in my head. AI is just going to read the mistake. I'm going to share with you in the document at the end a recording of an AI book that somebody shared on Facebook. There's an author who said, just for fun, I made a Google audiobook out of a short story. The voice sounds realistic and pleasant enough to listen to, but the delivery is absolutely awful, and don't even attempt to give it jokes. So I'll share that link with you and you can go listen to it. It's really a good voice. It's a little scary that it's so good, but it's not quite good enough for fiction, in my opinion. Okay. ACX. You've probably heard of acx.com. It's owned by audible.com, which is in turn owned by Amazon. ACX is the audiobook creation exchange where authors, independent authors and independent narrators can meet and make contracts, share information and learning, and interface, about audiobooks. It's not a social networking site, but there's a lot going on there. ACX is basically huge. And I mention ACX as opposed to other possible services simply because it's the one I have the most experience with. But other services work in similar ways. ACX provides a way to interface with narrators to hear their work. You can go to their ACX page and listen to their samples. ACX provides a contract, and because it's backed by Audible and Amazon, it's a pretty safe contract. It protects you and the narrator. And even if you don't produce using ACX, go and look at their FAQ section because it's full of useful information about the audiobook industry, about production, and everything else you could want to know. Even if you don't use ACX, wait, let me just backtrack a little bit. What you will do there, now I'm not going to backtrack. I'm just going to go this way. Even if you don't use ACX in the end, go there and create an author profile and claim your book. Claim the books that you own the rights to. This is because ACX, as huge as it is kind of the Wild West. So it has happened more than once, unfortunately, that people tried to scheme ways to make money off of ACX without doing any work. Scammers, basically, who might post a book. This is, and narrators look out for this. We have ways of finding out. Scammers will post fake books or books that are copied or plagiarized and retitled and recovered, and try to get a narrator to do a royalty share deal, meaning it doesn't cost the scammer any money. They don't have to pay the narrator. And then they put it up for sale on Audible and sell it and pocket the cash until Audible shuts them down, which they always do eventually. And then the narrator doesn't get any money, even though they might have put in a whole week's work. And the author doesn't get any money because the book was stolen from them. So claim your book so nobody can steal it. Then explore the site, read the FAQ, follow the blog. There's lots of great information, and you can research narrator producers there. And I call them narrator producers because they produce the whole book for you. Most people you find there will have a website. Most of them are professionals. And you can find that out using the tools I mentioned before about checking them out on Audible and asking the authors they've worked with. I have to check my notes after each slide just to make sure I got everything. Okay, I think we got a lot of what we need from that one. Now the cost. You can do it for a lot of money or you can do it for no money. If you have $5,000, hire one of those production companies and they will audition narrators for you, and you can pick the one you like the best, and they'll produce the book for you in their professional studio, and they will also distribute it the way you want it distributed. If you have half that, you can get a top narrator on ACX and pay them their per finished hour rate. This is different for different narrators. $250 is the SAG-AFTRA minimum on ACX, and it's kind of a middle range. I think for Dion Audio, last time I did a book for them, it was more like $200 per finished hour, whereas Penguin Random House pays more like $275. So, and then the super hotshot narrators you can get for $300 to $600 per finished hour. So if you want a famous narrator like Scott Brick or Hillary Huber or Julia Whalen, you're going to pay at least double that $250, probably triple. On ACX, hiring a narrator on ACX includes post-production. Again, this is a deal that you're going to negotiate. So some narrators will take that $250 and they will do the post-production for you. Many narrators know how to edit their own audiobooks. I know how to do the post on my book. However, I'm not a professional narrator, so I like to farm it out to a pro like Tie Def Productions. And they can give me a professionally produced audiobook a lot faster than I can do it myself. And those the post-production costs about $75 to $100 per finished hour. And that I can either include in my cost in my $250, or I might negotiate an extra $75 so that you pay for that. Okay, so the different narrators will do that differently. If you have less, like $500, you might negotiate a royalty share plus deal on ACX. That means that you will share your royalties, your sales, with the narrator, and maybe pay a little extra, like pay for post-production, for example, so that doesn't come out of the narrator's pocket, or pay them a fee that they negotiate with you, $50, $100 per finished hour. If you have $0, you can negotiate a royalty share deal on ACX. Really savvy narrators will not want to negotiate a royalty share deal with you unless your book sells in print. And they will research you just as you research them. Because A, they don't want to get cheated because that's happened before. And B, they want to sell audiobooks. They want to get paid because it takes a lot of time and energy to record and produce an audiobook. But ACX contracts, as I said, will protect you both. They're very, very well written. And yes, it happens where mistakes get made, there's miscommunication or whatever. But if you've got a really good communicating professional narrator that you've researched, then you can be sure that you're going to get the best audiobook. Just so you know about distribution, I am not a distribution expert. That's why you hire the pros, the production companies to do that. The only time I have done distribution is when I've done a book on ACX, in which case I upload to ACX and they distribute the book on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. If you are doing a royalty share plus or a royalty share deal, you must be exclusive. You must sign an exclusive contract with ACX and Audible. That is because that's the only way they can track your sales and be sure that the narrator gets their 50%. If you want to get your book into libraries or on Apple iBooks or any of the other distributors, and you can sign a non-exclusive contract, but you cannot do that with a royalty share or royalty share plus contract. I will direct you to an article. I'm going to include the link for you in the document I'll share at the end, written by Stephen J. Cohen, who owns the audiobook production company Spoken Realms that I mentioned to you earlier. Stephen lays out the difference between, I wouldn't even say the difference. He lays out the advantages and disadvantages of Audible's 40% royalties and other companies' 25% royalties. He will show you in that article how those work. There are other companies who say, we give you 100% of royalties. But all companies distribute on Audible. And so they get, if they do your book for you, they get a 40% royalty and they give you 100% of that. So you're not getting any more that way. Stephen explains it better than I do, which is why I'm linking you to the article, because he's an expert on distribution. Okay. Also, I don't want to forget to mention time, how long it takes. Really, a minimum amount of time is probably about a month. Some narrators are faster than others. It takes about 6 to 8 finished hours, 6 to 8 human work hours to turn out 1 hour of audio. So your narrator is probably going to be 2 to 3 hours. If he's a beginning narrator, more like 4 or 5 hours. Then you've got an editor who edits. Then you're going to have post-production people to include. So it takes some time. And also these people are working on other books. So you need to think about their schedules as you're scheduling. You don't just necessarily hand somebody a book and say, I expect to have this back in 30 days, because they may be working on something else at the time. So we will get to a little more specifics about that in just a minute. I'm talking a lot. Okay. A little bit about the production process. The first 15 is the first step. Once you've found the narrator that you want to work with, they're going to record 15 minutes of your audiobook for you. That doesn't have to be the first 15 minutes of the book. It can be 15 minutes that you are particularly concerned about. You want to know, is their French accent really that good? Give them some of the French characters' dialogue to narrate for you. What about a particular passage that might be sensitive or whatever? You want to hear how they do that. So you're going to send them a 15-minute script to record so you can hear how they're interpreting your work. Now, remember, you hired this person because you like how they interpret other people's work. So you're going to hear what they do with yours now. And if they're really, really off and you still want to work with them, this is the time to give them your directions and instruction. This character really needs to be more macho. This passage requires more speed, something like that. But tell them now, because once you sign the contract and the narrator has started recording, it's pretty much in the narrator's hands. They're going to keep you up to date on what's going on, but you don't get to hear it chapter by chapter. You don't get to give them notes chapter by chapter, because it's going to take forever if you do that. So the first 15 is the step during which you decide for sure this is the right narrator. If it's not, if what you hear is not what you want at all, this is where you cancel the job. Because step 2 is the contract itself. You sign the contract, and frankly, if you signed the contract first, you can still break it after the first 15. So these 2 steps are kind of at the same time. But once you've signed the contract, the narrator is going to prep your book. You're going to send them a PDF, hopefully, because that's the easiest format for narrators to use. Most of us use markup software on an iPad, and we read your book carefully before we start narrating it. First of all, what if there is a character with a French accent, but that doesn't get mentioned until chapter 4? Do I want to go back to chapter 1 and re-record all those lines? No, I need to know ahead of time. I need to make sure I know what all the words mean and how they're all pronounced. I also, a really good narrator, I think, will make sure they understand concepts. If you introduce a particular concept in your book that they may not be familiar with, they're going to research it and find out so that they really know what they're talking about when they narrate your book. So everything sounds natural and it flows the way it flowed for you when you wrote it. After prep, which is reading the audiobook through and researching everything, then the narrator records. This takes different amounts of time for different narrators. A really seasoned pro, like I'm a pro, okay? I'm not going to call myself a really seasoned pro. Really seasoned pro probably has 100 to 1,000 audiobooks to their name. Those people can probably record an audiobook. It takes a finished hour of audio probably takes them 2 hours or less. My record is 2.5 hours for a finished hour of audio, but generally I'm more like 2 3/4, between 2 3/4 and 3 hours it takes me to record a finished hour of audio. Once the recording is done, the post-production happens, and post-production is editing and mastering and proofing and corrections. Editing and mastering, like I said, I send out to a professional company. Editing really is basically where they just listen to it and take out, maybe I read a sentence twice that I didn't take out myself, or there's a noise from behind that they can take out. Mastering is, to give you an idea of what mastering is, sometimes a character whispers, sometimes a character shouts, and your audio line, your voice line is jagged, okay? I'm not remembering my words. It's not called a voice line, believe me, there's another word for it. This is why I send out to a professional for the post-production. Anyway, some is high and some is low, and they'll compress that. It's not going to sound compressed, but what happens is everything is basically at the same volume. Even though the whisper still sounds like a whisper, your listener doesn't have to keep messing with the volume knob to hear things. Everything is even and easy to listen to. After editing and mastering comes proofing, sometimes called quality control, when a professional proofer listens to the audiobook while they're looking at the script, and their job is to make sure that the narrator records the words exactly as you wrote them. We know how hard you worked on every if, and the. And a narrator who doesn't respect that is not a pro. We're going to read the book exactly as you wrote it. Unless it's a really obvious typo, then we will probably contact you and say, hey, I found a typo on such and such page. Or if there's any question about it, we'll ask. That's part of good communication. After the proofing happens, I would like to say that we're all perfect, but none of us are. I think I have done 2 books that didn't have any errors or corrections in them. But most narrators, because we get into the flow and we're excited and we're acting and having a good time with the book, there are going to be slip-ups. So we will receive a package from our editor that has the script marked where we need to re-record. There's also an audio match file so that we can hear what we said before and match the tone and intensity of the audio so that it can be slipped right back in to the audio file. And so there will be a seamless edit. You won't hear, when you hear the final product, you won't hear where the mistakes were made because they've been fixed seamlessly by a professional editor. Then it's approval time. And that is time for you to listen to the audiobook beginning to end. Don't miss a word of it. Maybe listen to it twice. Make sure it sounds like what you want it to sound like. At this point in the process, if you have any changes, if you need any changes made, here's the kind of changes that you don't pay for. Mispronunciations, misreads, maybe I thought Bobby was a girl and Bobby's really a guy. So I gave Bobby the wrong voice. Anything that is an error on the narrator's part or the editor's is fixed for free. That's all included. If you want to change any of the writing, if you go, oh, I shouldn't have said it that way, that will, your narrator will generally charge you a per studio hour price for making corrections like that. And so will the editor. So the narrator will have to pay the editor for editing that in. So you will make sure before you send your final manuscript to be narrated, you make sure that you've written it the way you want it written. Once you approve, it'll be uploaded and distributed to Audible, ACX, Apple, whatever your distribution channels, your chosen distribution channels, that is part of what you paid for. You don't have to do that yourself. Okay, let's see. Let me see if I've gotten everything here. Oh, I didn't mention when I was talking about money and time, I'm talking about a book kind of in the 10-hour range. So let's go back a little bit. If you've got a 20-hour book, it's going to cost more. Okay. I thought 10 hours would be good just because the math would be easy. It's also that month-long time I gave you is also about a 10-hour book. Yes. Okay. So marketing is next. I guess you know that the cover matters. Some authors will kind of try to just compress their 6x9 cover, but audiobook covers are square for some reason. I don't know why, but they are. The thumbnail on the web on the internet is going to be square. So don't just compress your cover. It looks bad, and people judge a book by its cover, whether you want them to or not. So have a nice square cover made of your cover. Be aware that marketing is not the narrator's job. If you've done a royalty share project, it is certainly in the narrator's best interest. And any narrator who does a royalty share and doesn't market the book is kind of biting off their nose to spite their face, I think. But marketing is the author's job. There are lots of good marketing tools out there. Findaway Marketplace, which is another place where you can hire a narrator. They have a great marketing blog. Findaway is more expensive than ACX, but they do a good job for authors, I understand. And you can also hire a narrator just between you off of ACX, hire a narrator separately to record files for you and upload those files to Findaway and pay them to distribute your book. So that's another possibility for you. Findaway, I'm not sure exactly how this works, but they were recently acquired by Spotify. So I don't know how that's going to change the way they do things. Spotify is known for episodic listening, and I'm not sure how they're going to do audiobooks. They will probably place ads or something like that, and people can listen to a chapter at a time, but it kind of remains to be seen. BookBub also has a really great marketing blog that I recommend. I'll give you an idea how to market your audiobook, because it's not exactly the same. Audiobook listeners are avid fans. They love the genres and they love listening to audiobooks. They listen in their cars, they listen while they're gardening, and they listen on airplanes, they listen all over the place, places where you can't read. And many of them are readers as well. So they're avid fans and they love audio. Okay, that was everything under marketing. Checking my time. Okay. What narrators want you to know? Read your book out loud before you submit it to a narrator. This is so helpful, even just editing, even if you're never going to do an audiobook, it's a step that I always use in editing because it helps me see where I repeat words or phrases, or even where I've repeated a concept that really doesn't need to be repeated. It's a great way to find phrases that are impossible to say. Although I will caution you, don't just back down. If you want to use grasped and texts and soldiers, shoulders, and all the things that narrators complain about, if those are the right words for your book, use them because that's what you're paying them for. They're professionals and they're supposed to know how to do it. But sometimes there is something that just doesn't sound right. What was it? Somebody said to me that narrators talk about having to say something that's so ridiculous they can't quite get it out. It makes them laugh. So just read your book for that kind of stuff. Then please have your book professionally edited and copy edited. We do run across a lot of not professionally edited books, especially on ACX, because it's a democratic process. Anybody can upload a book there. Anybody can hire a narrator there. And we do come across some, I don't have to tell you, you've looked at self-published books. They range from the crap to the fabulous. So please do get your book professionally edited and copy edited. Please know that the finished audiobook will not sound like what you imagined. It just can't. It can't sound like what's in your head. But I'm not going to promise you, because I don't know every narrator out there. But I'm going to tell you there's a 99% chance that it's going to be better than what you imagined. And I know this because of an experience that I had. I sold a short story to an anthology, a ghost story. And the publisher knew that I was a narrator, and she asked me if I wanted to narrate the story for the audiobook. And the main character is like 21, 22 years old. And I thought, no, I think we really need somebody who sounds younger than me. And so I let her take care of finding a narrator. And I happened to know the narrator that she found. And my initial thought was, okay, that's not who I was thinking of, but I trust this producer. She knows what to do. And the finished story, I was telling Natalie this the other day, the finished story was so gorgeous, it made me cry. I had no idea I had written that. I didn't think that it would be that emotional. But this narrator, Rachel Jacobs, brought such beauty to it and such heart and soul. And this is one of the things that a human voice can do. It can take the story and take the narration and make it greater than the sum of its parts. And that, I think, is what an audiobook is. Even if you don't own your audio rights, you can request your favorite narrator for your book. I mentioned this at the top. Go ahead and tell your publisher, boy, I'd really like Cassandra Campbell to narrate my book. They may not be able to get Cassandra, but they might. And, at least you can take a shot. All they can say is no. And by the way, your chosen narrator will be thrilled that you asked, I promise you. And just so you know, returning an audiobook to Audible affects the rights holder's bottom line, the rights holder being the author. And if it's royalty share, it affects the narrator as well. So just like when somebody reads your book, your self-published book, and returns it to Audible and you don't get paid for that, same thing happens with audiobooks. Audible has lately been telling people, hey, just exchange it. We don't care. And they let them listen all the way through it, even give it 5 stars and return it. And the narrator and the author get docked. So if you hate the book, if it's crummy, yeah, send it back. They shouldn't get paid for that. But if you like this book, don't go trading in and just thinking that Audible is a free book exchange, because it's not free. It costs somebody. And if you like the book, it's worth paying for. I think that is that for that one. Here's what you can do today. Things you can start with right now. You can go to acx.com and create your profile and start looking around on ACX. You can read or listen to The Guide to Publishing Audiobooks by Jessica Kay. I've included that link in the document I'll be sharing. Jessica is, she's a former member of the board of directors of the Audio Publishers Association. She is an audiobook producer. She owns a company in LA called Curated Audio. Oh, I should have included that on the list. Maybe I'll add that in the chat. Curated Audio is in LA, and they can produce your book for you as well. And Jessica is also a lawyer, so she knows all about this. And her book gives you every little detail that I couldn't possibly include in an hour today. Also, check out narratorsroadmap.com and scroll to the bottom of the homepage and subscribe to Blog Articles for Authors. Narrator's Roadmap is a website that's run by Karen Cummins, who is an IT professional and a narrator and a scholar. And she has accumulated videos and articles and links and information, and anything you could possibly want is on her website. It is a website you pay to join, but there is plenty of free content as well. And I highly recommend it. It's a really great, really useful site. Contact me. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not here to pitch myself as your narrator. Like I said, it's very personal, and not every person is right for every book. I'm here to help you find the best narrator for your audiobook. This audiobook narration is actually hard work. It sounds kind of glamorous, and I have people coming up to me all the time saying, oh, I have a nice voice and I really like to read and I think I could do that. And I share with them a video that I'm sharing with you in the document at the end from a coach and narrator named Sean Pratt called So You Want to Be an Audiobook Narrator. And he goes over what the work is actually like. It's actually hard work. And we do it, even though it doesn't pay as well as other voiceover or other acting, we do it because we love it. We love books. We love telling stories. We love getting into your story in an emotional way and really giving it all the heart and soul that it deserves. Audiobook narrators are kind of obsessive. We talk to each other every day on Facebook if we're not recording, and we're really into it. So I want you to find the right narrator for you, and you can contact me. I will get back to you as fast as I can. If there's anything that we've missed today and you don't know where to start or where to go, just get in touch with me. All this stuff is going to be on the document as well. And I think that's everything. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I'm going to go ahead and take this sharing down. How do I stop sharing? Oh, here we go. Stop share. Okay. So that's it. Thank you all very much. And I hope I answered some questions for you.
Well, there's lots of questions in the chat.
Yay. Let's see what we got. New glasses. I think they should have been bifocals. Okay. Kim's question, can one rewrite a contract with a traditional publisher to have approval? Yes, this is going to depend on you and your publisher, but yes, contact them and ask. I think it's just like, I'm looking at you because you're down here on my screen, Kim. But it's just like anything else. It's negotiable. And if you're Stephen King, you can negotiate anything you want. So you know what I mean. If they don't care, that's also a possibility. They may think, oh, well, good. We didn't really have time to look at this yet. So thank you, Kim, for telling us who you want. If you want different actors for the male and female roles, that is called, there's two ways to look at it. One is called a duet. Duet is where even within a scene, I talk and then the male narrator talks and we actually act the scene together. And it's pretty, it's challenging to edit. So it costs more. Duet costs more than dual or singular. Duet costs more because the editor has to basically make our sound equal. My sound room might not sound the same as the guy's room, for example, and he has to cut everything together. So it does cost a little more. That's duet. Dual narration, you can probably get for the same price as regular narration, because dual is, for example, if you have, say a historical romance, and some chapters are from the woman's point of view, and some chapters are from the men's point of view. Or male romance, you have two different men acting the parts. Same with female. So that's a little easier to do. And the narrators will record their chapters separately. They will work with each other on matching vocal quality so that, I mean, I'm not going to sound exactly like the guy, but I can match a little bit of what he's doing, and he can match a little bit of what I'm doing. So yeah, that can be done, and it's not as expensive as duet. What is needed to create your own audiobook? I've been told my readings capture all the different print. Okay, so the most important thing for you is, first of all, just so you know, most narrators working today are also their own engineers. So I engineer my own recording sessions. Tomorrow, I'm actually recording for Audible, one of the Audible originals, and I will be online on Zoom with Audible, but I'll still be recording at my end. So you will need to understand the software you're recording with. But I think even more important that is the space you record in and the microphone you use. So some microphones are just better for some voices than others. This is why I recommend using a production studio where they have all that. And as I said, Dion, I know, is a reasonable price to just rent a studio. You can pay more and have an engineer run the session for you. So all you have to do is narrate. Okay. I just did a book for Blackstone, actually. Blackstone, the book I did for them is called The Sisters Cafe, and it was my first book for Blackstone. The producers there are about the nicest people you could ever want to meet. And if you can get your book produced through Blackstone, go there for sure, because they are lovely, lovely people and real pros. So yes.
They're the ones interested in publishing my Lenswoman.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. Yes. And they will help you find the narrator you want. The person that I have dealt with there most is Jessie Bickford. No, that's her. That's her. I don't know if she's still using that for business because she got married. But Jessie is the person who is really in charge of audiobooks there, and she's terrific. Okay, Kevin, many brick and mortar stores will not buy books from Amazon as a distributor. Likewise, Ingram Spark will not distribute print-on-demand books from Amazon. Are there similar issues between ACX and other distributors of audiobooks? Not that I know of, but you don't have to use ACX as your distributor. There are, well, you kind of do, actually. You kind of have to use Audible because that's where the biggest part of the audience is, but there's no law that says you have to. But I have distributed audiobooks. No, I have not distributed audiobooks through Ingram Spark. But they will do audio from Amazon, I believe. You know what? I'll have to find that out for you, Kevin, and get back to you. Because I am aware of that problem with Amazon, and I just don't know the answer. So let me write that down.
Petra,
Yes.
while you're doing that, Findaway does distribute to Audible, so you
Right.
could technically go through Findaway
Yeah.
and still reach Audible.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that's the answer to your question. All of these independents still distribute through Audible, but you don't have to make your deal with Audible. You can make your deal with Findaway or Audiobooks Unleashed or all these other smaller companies. But I will just double check on that anyway, just to make sure. Are we going to be able to download the chat? Will that be something I can save? I don't want to take too much time. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I will just copy and paste Kevin's question.
There's
Art.
three little dots at the,
Oh,
at the
okay.
very bottom. And if you
Okay.
click on there, one of the options is to record the chat.
Okay, save chat.
So,
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I think, how many pages are in a 10-hour book? That's a good question. Probably around 3 to 350. That's why I used that amount. That's, I think, more like 8 hours is about average for the length of fiction. Unless it's sci-fi, and those are, super long books often. But yeah, that's about, and I should tell you also that some narrators talk faster than others.
Mm-hmm.
They say 9,200 words per finished hour. But some will give you 9,300, some will give you 9,000. I'm more like in the 9,000 range. And I know a guy who's like 8,700, and he's super popular narrator. So you don't want to talk too fast or else you lose the listener. You just want it to come out naturally, like anything else. You want to narrate the book as the book demands. Mm. So there are going to be some passages that are faster and some that are slower. Okay, I think that's all the questions I see here. Anybody else? Oh, here's one. A new message. Are there ever sound effects or music? That's a good question. Usually not. It depends. Like, I think I listened to one of his Dark Materials books, and they did sound effects, and it was really great. Usually, though, I find music annoying in the book, and some listeners are not expecting it. They don't care if they hear it or not. Some like it, some don't, but it's not the norm.
Music in the intro and in the closing. That's how I usually hear it.
That's about where you'll hear it, yeah, but not during the book. Mm-hmm.
No.
There's no reason why you couldn't, Kim, use music in the background of a ballroom scene. No reason why you couldn't. Your editor is going to need to know how to lay that in, so you're going to need to have a pro do that. But if that's how you're hearing the book.
And I would imagine you'd have to get rights to the music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you absolutely have to. Oh God, that's another can of worms.
Yeah.
A book that I did a couple of years ago, really good book, and it's won some awards for independent publishing, but she wanted to use some songs, and she tried to get the rights to them, but the money is kind of a lot, and even if you don't think anybody's going to ever hear it in your book, you can't take a chance and most narrators won't take a chance because they are liable as well.
Well, that's another artist, so you can't take
Right.
their work for free.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Renaissance music is available without royalties. Yeah, exactly. Public domain
Mhm.
is a fountain of great stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, be careful with music. And even if it is very old traditional music, it is possible that somebody owns the rights to it. So make sure you research it carefully. Because people buy these old music libraries and whatnot. Yeah. Okay.
And particular performances may be copyrighted.
Definitely particular performances. Thank you, Jean. That's a good point. Yeah. Ooh. Thank you for
Petrea.
listening, guys. This is the first
Great
time I've done
presentation.
this.
Yeah, really.
Thank
really
you.
good.
I will be interested to hear if you want to just email me if you have any suggestions or whatever, things that I might have missed that you want to hear about. This is the first time I've done this, and I'll probably be doing it again. So I'd like to do it well.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
I remember the first time around when you had Jeff with you back at the restaurant, and stuff. And wow, you have grown by leaps and bounds.
Well, I just sat there and listened because he knows everything. He still knows everything, Yeah. But I have made a lot of really good friends in this business. I'm going to his wedding in November.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, it's really been a lovely, it's a lovely business to work in. People are generally very supportive and kind and friendly. And we like seeing each other succeed, which is another reason why I say this is not about me pitching myself as the narrator, because when you can get the exact right person, if I can help you find that person, that makes me happy. Yeah. Oh, right. I have to get in touch with Kim. I will get in touch with you, Kim. Let me make sure I got your email address. I know it's Upthread. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much, Petrea. That was wonderful.
Thank you, and you're welcome. And thank you also, you guys. You may not know this, but Natalie spent more than an hour with me a week ago just to make sure I had all my ducks in a row. And she really is doing a fantastic job. So thank you, Natalie.
You're very welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Petrea, you had a PDF?
Oh, right, PDF. Yes, let's get that in here. Hang on. Yeah, this will have all the links that I talked about. It didn't work. I have to do it the other way. Okay. It's not giving me the options to add a PDF here. We did this the other day, Natalie, and I didn't have any trouble. Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive Box, or SharePoint. I don't have the option to add a document.
Oh. Well, both the Word document and the PDF worked last week.
Yeah, they did. Let me see if I can drag and drop it.
You might be able to upload it to the event announcement.
Oh, let me try that. Though I would rather just upload it so you guys see it, because I think it can be misinterpreted. Well, no, it's not proprietary information.
Try dragging and dropping. I think that's what you did last week.
It didn't work. I tried it twice.
Petrea,
Yes.
if you could email that to me,
Okay.
I will attach it when we put the newsletter out with the link to this particular video file.
Okay.
Okay, and so
All right.
there as an attachment. So.
Okay.
If you copy and paste, right click on it, will that work? And
I'll
paste?
try that. Okay, I just sent to you, Jean. Let's see about copy paste. Nothing. You know, Jean, since you're the host, it's possible that I can't upload a document here, but you can.
Well, you're a co-host, so
I am a co-host.
yeah,
Huh.
so
Right, because I shared my screen.
I
Don't know
just want to
why.
let you know something's wrong with the audio here. Yeah.
it may be at your end, Shakura.
Yeah.
It seems
Okay.
to be working okay here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's the ghost in Bethesda, Shakura.
Don't know.
Is it hot enough there for you?
She's nodding.
Hasn't been that bad here. You know, other places in the world and in the country are having it worse.
Yep.
I am located in Pasadena.
Yeah.
Answer your question, Kim. And your other questions, Kim, I will get back to you. I wrote down your email and I will get back to you. Okay.
Okay, so anything else, anybody, any comments, any questions? Thank you for coming. Our next presentation will be in September. I don't think, do we have a date, Jean, for the next one in September?
Oh, I don't know. I would imagine it'd probably be that third.
Okay, the third Sunday in September.
We'll be away.
So,
We'll be away.
yes, I get that.
Okay.
That would be the 17th of September is the third Sunday.
Okay.
I mean, 18th, I'm sorry, 18th.
Okay, September 18th.
Yeah, that's the third, 1, 2, 3, third Sunday in September.
Okay, so Sunday, September 18th at 12:30.
Oh, we might be. Okay.
Okay, so once again, anything else? Otherwise, we're off. So what happened with the document? If you're going to attach it later, Jean? To the Facebook invite?
Yes, I will make sure people can get it when I send the newsletter out. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, thanks again, Petrea.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
great Sunday.
See you in 2 months.
Okay.
Bye.
Take care.
Very good.